So say that again. You've gone and done what?
I've bought some jingles for the podcast.
Jingles? What, sort of like radio jingles?
Yeah. Do you want to hear it?
Go on then.
We haven't got any choice. Here we go. Take a listen to this.
The Tire Kickers with Max and Matt.
What do you think of that?
Can I get back to you on that one?
It's great. Do you really not like
Debatable.
them? Fair enough. I think it's really good. Anyway, let's get started. Here's the theme tune.
Well, yes, hello there, and welcome to episode 17 of The Tire Kickers. It's the classic car podcast by two friends who talk about old cars to avoid those long, embarrassing silences. My name is Matt.
And I'm Max. This time we hit the road and check out the bargains and Bentleys at one of the biggest classic auctions of the season.
Plus, is it handy to drive an old Landy? We look at whether a Series 3 Land Rover is a bit of class or just a rusty pain in the...
Last of all, we've got all your comments and corrections plus details of a special deal to get you into this November's Classic Motor Show. So switch on your side lights as we start up episode 17 of The Tire Kickers.
So we're back. It's now, mid-September? And this week, looking out the window here, there's a bit of sunshine going on, but you can feel the nights starting to draw in here in the UK. But with temperatures still around 20 during the day, it's allowed us to squeeze in a bit of extra classic car stuff. In fact, Max, I just followed a Morris Minor back home, so people are still out there on the roads. Talking of which, how's the new car hunting going? Have you test driven anything?
I have been test driving it. I have been out live tyre kicking. I've put it on your screen now. Actually, this is the thing that I drove last week, a 1987 Mercedes-Benz 300 SL. Okay. So this is, again, the Bobby Ewing SL. I've been obsessed about these for months now. It's in red, so it's the full Bobby Ewing colours. You can sit next to me in the passenger seat and be Pam Ewing if you want. It's a very nice car. It drove exactly how I expected it to drive. Nice and wallowy, nice and slow. The sunshine was out, the roof was down. It's the kind of SL experience. It's the ultimate SL experience, I think. So I'm really quite into those for the time being. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I like that. You're very funny about the colours on these, aren't you?
Yeah, well, I think they're very colour sensitive. I think the light ones don't look as good as the dark ones, to be honest. I like the dark blues. I like the dark reds. Some of the other golds I think are a bit, it's a bit naff. Some of the light blues, the powder blues, don't like those as much. And I don't really like the black ones. I think they kind of mask the lines of the car. But
you've had that experience, have you, of like country lane, sunny day, that sort of thing? Because I think that's where these cars do really, really well.
Absolutely. It was so sunny, I got sunburnt on my head through my thinning hair. So it was almost perfect. It's kind of what you want as a middle-aged man, isn't it? You can jump into that, you can drive to the pub, and you can have your shandy and then drive back. It's kind of the kind of classic car dream of somebody our age, isn't it, really?
I also read that these are not only the one of the easiest classic cars to actually own in terms of like they give you the least amount of grief on a daily basis, but also they're most usable as well. I mean, there's no reason why you couldn't, drive away for a weekend in a city in that and park up in a hotel car park, is there?
Yeah, as long as you don't have to pay the clean air zone charges anywhere. So you'd have to choose your city carefully. But yeah, I think they're really usable. And that's what I wanted coming from the 912, is something that was just a bit easier. You can just jump in it literally and not have to worry about it. It didn't take quite such an effort to drive. And actually, these drive really nicely. The auto box is a bit slushy, but it handles reasonably nicely. You can get little upgrades. You can get bushes upgrades to make it handle a slightly less wallowy. So I think it should be quite a good compromise. And I have been looking at these now for a while. So when I drove it, I had a lot of preconceptions, but I actually really liked it.
So this has got the straight six in it, has it?
It's got the straight six. It's got some basic, Mercedes well-tried engineering. I don't think it's even slightly complicated. I think that plenty of mechanics can look after it. So it's hopefully it's a good bet. All I need to do now is start the negotiations. I'm going to bid you about half what it's worth.
Well, good luck with that. The market is very unpredictable at the moment. I was going to put my car, my Sunbeam Alpine, away for the winter last week, but looking out the window, I'll take the extra weather while it's available. However, I was going to talk to you about this. I noticed the old girl was dripping a bit more than normal.
Water or oil?
Oil, yeah. She normally has a little drip on the drive before I put her back in the garage. But I parked it in there last week, and I noticed there was a little sort of dot to dot going up the drive. So it looks like the header, the rocker cover gasket needs replacing. Do I leave that? Do I do that now, or do I leave it for next year?
Oh, I'd leave that for next year. If you're going to put it away in the storage, what's the point of doing it now? Because you might have to do it again.
It's only going to expand and contract and all that sort of stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, do it out of storage. Just fill it full of oil and leave it. Park it up. Worry about it some other time.
Put a drip tray with cat litter under it. That's what I'll do. I saw something as well in the week that I haven't seen since the 90s. I mean, that's so long ago that you were still on the TV then. It passed me. That wasn't widescreen either. And it passed me as I was driving home.
It wasn't HD, thank God.
Have a click on this link to get it up on your screen now. I've not shown this to you before.
Okay, hang on. Oh, wow. Okay, yeah. Oh, God, I remember these. So this is the Polo Harlequin. So this is the VW Polo that every panel was a different colour.
Exactly.
I remember this being a nightmare to insure for some reason. Now, the insurance companies wouldn't touch it. But that's amazing. When did you see that?
It literally was coming straight at me when I was driving down a high street in Surrey, and I thought, God, I haven't seen those. I haven't seen a Polo Harlequin since pint was about £2.50 and Tony Blair was still running the country. They were sort of random at the time, weren't they? Nobody quite worked out why they did it. I don't think anybody's done it since, have they?
Well, everybody used to do it a bit when they went to the scrapyard to get a replacement panel, and it wasn't the quite colour, but you just drove around with it anyway, didn't you, until you got it sprayed. But it was really taking it to an extreme there. I didn't see that many of them. It'd be interesting to see how many sold in the UK. Not many.
Yeah, just looking at the info here, they planned 10,000 of these things, which do look like a patchwork quilt. They cost knocking on 12 grand. No, based on a 1.4, but they only made 3,806 of them. Do you reckon they got up down the production line, looked at the order book, and went, switch it off? Nobody wants them.
Nobody wants them because it was the 1.4. I mean, let alone of the awful colour schemes, the 1.4 engine was pretty weedy.
Yeah, but this thing, I saw the Harlequin coming the other way, and I just thought, I haven't seen one of those. I wonder how many are left. We should have looked that up. That would have been a good idea to do, wouldn't it? Research.
What, like research?
Yeah.
Nah, it's never going to catch on.
Yeah, forget that. Move on. If you've seen any weird spots, by the way, that you've not seen for ages, do let us know on our Instagram and our Facebook. We're always interested. I
did put a picture of a stretch roller I spotted at the weekend, and that got quite a few likes. Oh, yeah. Did you see that?
Yeah, it did.
It was a Stretch Silver Spirit. They've got a special name. I think it might be the Wraith.
A bit difficult to park, wouldn't they?
You wouldn't be able to get around the corner. It was massive.
You'd have to take it wide, wouldn't you?
You can only go straights, yeah. Still to come, we've been out kicking the tyres at the Historics auction, and we'll run you through what hit the reserve and what fell off a cliff later. But first, if you follow our Instagram, you'll see we hit 5,000 downloads recently, which is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much. We've done that in just 7 months, actually. So thank you to everyone who's listened to the episodes and the bonus episodes as well. It does mean a lot that you're enjoying this and getting involved and coming back for more. We have only been going, God, since February. It does seem longer, doesn't it?
Yeah, years.
But we are enjoying
Life
making
sentence.
it. We're enjoying making it, though. So, as they say, onwards and forwards.
Or maybe backwards into your 1960s chrome bumper comfort zone. But please, we are doing this purely for fun. We're not trying to sell you anything, so please get involved. We like the banter. Join in on the chat.
And news just in, Max, as well. Literally just in. We've been nominated for an Independent Podcast Award.
Oh.
Which is surprising.
Unbelievable, I'd say.
Yeah, it's an event held in London in October, and we've been shortlisted for the best lifestyle podcast. Is this a lifestyle?
Like cooking, gardening.
Just looking at we're up against 8 others, including a podcast called 50. Now what? Pretty much the same as this, isn't it?
Well, exactly. Buy a convertible classic car and get some sun on your bald head.
There's some other good ones as well. So there's another 8 that look really good. There's one called the Chat In Pub Podcast, which I had a quick listen to before we came on tonight, and that sounds really good, which is annoying. We're up against some good competition, but it's a big event. It's at King's Cross, 23rd of October. Perhaps we should go. We should turn up.
Surely the question would be, what would we go in? What car would we drive to it?
A Polo Harlequin. That's what we turn up, a couple of clowns. So we'll keep you posted on that. But thank you very much for the nomination, Independent Podcast Award judges. Fingers crossed, we do all right on the night, but we'll let you know. Thank you also as well to you for your comments and corrections about the last episode. So should we get into that now, Max? And let's do some honourable mentions. Off you go.
Yes, Kev Bryant on Facebook as a new listener has got in touch. Welcome along, Kev. He's got a question straight off the bat, though. He asks, you haven't covered using your classic for motorsports. Why that? Well, you haven't seen us drive. Kev's got a 1960 TR3A and enjoys sprints and hill climbs, auto tests and rallies. It's the best way to enjoy your classic, he says. cars. That is a very good point.
We don't. I don't. I know people that do. I mean, my Alpine would probably blow up or fall apart if I took it on a track. But I know people who take their cars to track days and do hill climbs and that sort of stuff. I'm sure you do as well. But perhaps we should cover it, actually. I mean, it's a good way to knacker your car out, isn't it?
I'll do it in your car. I'll do a track day in your car, but you ain't going to do one in mine.
I'll do it in your new SL.
What the slowest track day time?
Just floor it, see what the kickdown's like.
Yeah, but we'd look so cool.
Regular listener Keith D'Souza's been on to us, Max, by your beds. Episode 16, we came to a peace agreement, you'll remember, over our dispute about what a real classic car is.
Truce.
But, I might have some more information on that later. He says, I'm glad we have a middle ground about what constitutes a classic. Perhaps, he says, the minimum age for a classic could be 15 years old or over. Well, no, we're not opening it up again, Keith.
What about all the stuff since 2009?
Well, yeah, there is that. But, look, I've got a point on the classic car thing just very quickly. You said I couldn't have chrome-bumpered cars as a thing. It's like it's a thing that moves on.
Yeah.
Well, I disagree, because look at architecture. Georgian Victorian architecture is still revered, isn't it? It's what everybody wants. Georgian and Victorian house is regarded as better. 60s and 70s houses aren't.
So this is now turning into an architecture podcast as well as cooking and gardening.
Ergo, 50s and 60s cars are your Georgian and Victorian. You can put those on a plinth. Anyway, moving on.
Right, that made sense. Listener Felix Hammond says, great show, listened on my way into work and it's given me some talking points for lunch. He also says he sent us a message about getting a Tyre Kickers sticker and he hasn't got one yet. Yeah, sorry, we're not very good with that.
Yeah, sorry, that's my fault. We'll sort it out. If you do want a sticker, let us know. Drop us a slide into Max's DMs. I think that's the expression these days. Send us a DM and remind us if you've asked for one and we've been absolutely useless and not sent it out, or two, you want one. We do have some Tyre Kicker stickers you can put on your car and spread the word and show your support.
Felix Hammer also says, possible talking point. Often some of the most interesting and affordable classics I find for sale online. And when I change my location to the continent, maybe you could do a continental Tyre Kicker. So I like the sound of that. Talking about the pros and cons of importing a classic. That's a good idea.
Yeah, it's gone a bit quiet since the B word, hasn't it? But I think the cars are still there and there's obviously still a way and means of bringing them in. So yeah, perhaps we should look at that. Another comment, best comment I think this time goes to Jago Brett, who we mentioned last time around. The Max, he said, I nearly crashed the car driving back from Dublin Airport when my name was mentioned. It was quite a shock. He goes on to say he's really enjoying the podcast, so thank you, Jago. He's also got an idea for a feature. He says, why don't you do a section to find out what's the GOAT of alloy wheels? Do you understand GOAT? It's Gen
I
Z
do
speak.
GOAT. Yes, I do get GOAT.
Oh,
thank you very much.
With it. Greatest of all time. He's saying we should run through a list of alloy wheels. What do you reckon?
I think that's quite a good idea. I think we were talking about this a couple of episodes ago, and then I got onto the Wolf Race slot mags, I think they were called, from the Series 1 Lotus Esprit. I think they were my favourite.
Is that like Jazz Mags? Or is that different?
Jazz Mags. Or what about things like a Fuchs wheel for a Porsche or the Teledial alloys for a 928?
We're going to be able to talk about it for 10 minutes. It's quite visual.
Probably
isn't it?
20, actually, but it's just in the editing, we'll cut it down. But yeah. That wheels is a good idea. BMW E39 M5 smoke silver alloys.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think it's a debate. I've got mini lights on mine at the moment. I'm not sure I like them. I want wire wheels, I think, but then I can't be bothered with wire wheels. I don't like
wire wheels. They're too difficult to clean.
There we go. Thank you, Jago. That's given Max something to talk about, like just as a monologue for 10 minutes. So we'll see if we can work that into the next
jingle.
We've got to talk about these jingles now. Look, should we play another one of your jingles and discuss? Right, here we go.
The Tyre Kickers with Max and Matt.
Now, I've got a question about this. There's another one of your jingles.
How much did it cost?
Well, no, it's
not as much as you'd think.
It's no, you're kidding me. It's a technical question. Were you drunk when you ordered them?
I wasn't drunk, but I did order them online, and I don't quite think they got the idea of what I was after. But I tried to explain to them I wanted the same kind of singing as the Wonder Woman theme tune. You'll remember Wonder Woman. So I went to Tyre Kickers, but I didn't get it because it got lost in translation. So this is what we've got. But I kind of like them. They're kitsch, they're funny, they're cheerful.
Yeah.
Do you not like them at all, then?
Well, let's have a listen again. This is the first one we played at the top of the show.
The Tyre Kickers with Max and Matt.
Okay, and this is the one we just played now, which is slightly longer.
The Tyre Kickers with Max and Matt. Matt.
Your name has got far better billing than mine, but you did make the point maybe they could have been in the same key as the music, which I hadn't have thought about really.
It sounds like they're sort of on helium balloons on a treadmill. Would be my observation.
Yeah, okay, it's not perfect, is it? It's not perfect, but it's cheap.
What's your vision with this? Because I thought we got it fairly slick until now. I feel it unravelling.
I think it's slicker. It's even slicker than before.
Does it make us sound slick, or does it make us sound like a couple of hospital radio DJs?
Oh God, yeah, that's what we're aspire to. I just think it's a bit of fun, isn't it? Just makes us stand out a bit, and you know, a little bit of a jingle raises a smile. So hopefully, it's raising a smile, or maybe the cat has run out of the room at the same time. But you know, I think a jingle is good.
Well, drop us a line to let us know what you think. Crush them or caress them? That's what we're asking.
I'd be 40 quid down though, so careful.
Best way to leave a comment is on one of our posts on Instagram or Facebook. We're at The Tyre Kickers on Instagram or The Tyre Kickers on Facebook.
And if you're an Apple fanboy or fangirl and you listen to this on Apple Podcasts, please do us a favour. Leave us a nice review. It helps others spot the show and work out that we're not complete muppets.
While you're listening to The Tyre Kickers, episode 17, our auction findings are coming up very shortly, so stay with us. But first, just a quick reminder that this November, we're doing this very podcast live from the Classic Motor Show. It's at the NEC in Birmingham, and this is mainly a reminder for Max to put it in his diary. It's a big show this year, the 40th anniversary, 330 clubs there, 350 traders, and over 3,000 cars to look at, and plus us two idiots bumbling around talking about cars.
Yes, we're going to be doing a turn, recording a special episode from their podcast lounge. So come along and see how we throw this nonsense together, and also get to see what we actually look like, which is not good. Like a classic car, it's best to stand back a few feet. There'll also be some seats, some comfy seats to fall asleep in if it's all too much.
So do come along and join us. We're going to be on stage at 3:00 on the Saturday. And if that's not an incentive, here's Max with a better one.
Yes, we've got a discount code to get you in cheaper. It's Tyre Kickers 3, all one word, the number 3, and you can get a massive £2 off adult tickets if you buy them in advance. Woo!
You can get your tickets and find all the details for the show on their website, necclassicmotorshow.com. That's necclassicmotorshow.com. Just put, as Max says, Tyre Kickers 3 in the promo code box. They've given it with a capital T. I don't know if that makes any difference, but capital T, Tyre Kickers with a Y, 3, the number 3 in the promo code box, and you should get £2 off your tickets at the checkout. And if you do, we'll see you there. Well, you're listening to the Tyre Kickers. Now, you might think we just sit here yapping every couple of weeks, and that is a fair assumption. But recently we actually went out in the wild together on a sort of field trip. After being relieved of a few quid for an auction catalogue, we dropped in at the Historics auction in Ascot to do some tyre kicking at their September sale. It's called Pace of Autumn.
Now, there were some really interesting lots, and we'll look at the price ranges they were in and the money they actually achieved. We've also put some photos on Instagram of the stuff we're talking about here. But interesting, only 1 or 2 of the lots actually made us go, oh, that's really cheap.
Yeah, very true. It was a bit of a meh for me, I've got to say, Max. We've been to a few of these together, haven't we? And I just didn't feel there was much quality among the selection this time. Maybe it's the market, I don't know, maybe it's the weather. We talked about it on the day. I don't know, but there was not much that I personally was lusting over, and we didn't get excited about that much, didn't we? And lots of that modern stuff that you like again. But what was your sort of snapshot feeling about the auction before we get into the cars?
I thought the same. There was a few things that made me go, wow, that seems to be quite expensive, and we'll discuss one of them in the lots as we go through.
Catalogue.
Yeah, the auction catalogue and the coffee.
Quid for 2 people.
Coffee was pretty much.
Yeah.
But there was a few things that I thought that's still quite expensive, because you get the feeling at the moment the classic car market is quite a tough place to be, and I didn't see the prices were as low as I would have expected for some stuff. But let's get stuck into it. Let's talk about the cars themselves, because there were a few lots that did make us take notice. First of all, there was a 1939 Jaguar SS 1.5 litre. Now, not our usual fodder, but it was lovely in well-used black and grey paintwork. 85 years old, remember, and caught our attention mainly because it was guided at 14 to 18,000. Now, neither of us know much about these, but what a lovely car that is. We sat in it, we smelt the leather, we looked outside of it. Okay, it was a bit tired, but I think that was part of the appeal of an 85-year-old car. And actually, when you look at it and you sat in it and looked down the bonnet, what an experience that would be.
As Max says, it wasn't our sort of normal thing. It's a bit Downton Abbey for us, I guess. But It was a lot less than we thought. We usually, don't we? We usually play the guessing game when we go around and go, well, what do you think it's up for? And then open the catalogue and see what it's guided at. This time, I've got to say, we didn't bother because the prices were sort of all over the place, I thought, and weren't as low as the market would suggest. But this one, yeah, it did catch our interest. We got in the suicide doors, didn't we? And we sat there and imagined what it'd be like to drive it. But yeah, it was one that definitely caught our eye.
And I don't think that bad a buy. It was rewired in 2020. The head gasket was replaced in 2022. And the gearbox was rebuilt in 2022 as well. So the selling price was, bearing in mind it was guided between 14 and 18,000, £11,726.
So even with a bit of buyer's premium, that's a classy old car. So somebody's done quite well there, I think. So as we mentioned, there was a lot of millennium classics, as Max likes to term them. There was a 1996 Bentley Azure that we liked, didn't we? The ultimate sort of, that's a lot of car for your money.
Well, yeah,
this is the convertible version of the old pre-VW Continental R. So royal blue, parchment leather. This was a nice car, wasn't it?
It was great. And it was one of those ultimate, you get a lot of car for your money there. And I think one of these Bentley Continentals, you get a huge amount of car. It's virtually the size of a transit van. That might be a bit of a drawback, but actually it's a proper 4-seater. Get 3 mates in, go to the pub, 4 up. I think that's a great car. And it looks good. Unlike the slightly later Volkswagen Continentals, I think this has a proper grille. It looks like a proper Bentley should be.
A 90s one, and not normally one that I would like, but when we got near it and we got in it, it was classy, wasn't it, Max? Really, really classy.
Yes, 64,000 miles, and it sold for £40,000. So even with the buyer's premium, that works at about £45,000. Now, that is a huge amount of car and a huge amount of luxury for that kind of money.
It can take you to lots of different places, including a lot of petrol stations that you didn't know existed before. So you'll be seeing whoever the new owner in that is. Make sure you get a loyalty card. What else did we see, Max?
Well, I was very taken with this silver 1953 Jaguar XK120 with new red interior. One of the most beautiful cars ever made. But as usual on these, it was a real struggle to get in and out of it. Now, I'm only 6 foot. I'm not excessively tall, but it was virtually impossible. And you saw me trying to crawl into that thing. It was virtually impossible to get into it. Beautiful lines, though. We've said before, 120s are getting cheap. This one was in great condition, guided between 67 and 75,000. But you do need to be small.
Watching you get in it, it was like sort of seeing you put a wetsuit on, trying to get inside it. You're also very exposed in there as well. We were just looking at it because it's got no side windows. It's got the very shallow windscreen and no seatbelts. It feels like you're a crash test dummy, and it looks like you're just going to be thrown out. If that car stops, you're going to carry on going. But they do look so good.
I do think it's such an iconic car. This one was imported from abroad, so it's had the left to right-hand drive conversion. It's had a front brake disc conversion, which is good, so you might have a chance of stopping. It's had a new hood, that lovely new interior. But guided between 65 and 75, didn't sell. I'm just not sure the market is there for these at the moment because I don't think they're really that usable. They're like a piece of art. You'd like to have them on your wall, but I'm not sure how many people can actually drive them.
Now, you know that I get excited about the old stuff, but there was a new car that we both really liked, actually. Black BMW Z3. Now, the Z3's been a bit of an ugly duckling, and it's been the sort of run to the litter, really, and everybody gravitated, skipped that and looked at the Z4. But the Z3 is starting to get a bit of appreciation now. This one particular one, we both got in and were really impressed with the condition of it, weren't we? It's got manual roof, simple mechanicals, and just 34,000 miles. Very, very low mileage. Yeah, so this didn't have a reserve on it, actually. And we went, oh, okay, I wonder what this will go for. Because normally Z3s have become very cheap, and they are being used for kit cars and things. But this actually sold for a decent number. Max, what did it go for?
This went for 5,720, which is on a no reserve car is quite good. Now, we both sat in this and both went, looked at each other. Roof is quite good. It was the 2.2, so the 1.9 was a bit gutless. The 2.2 was the later car, nicer, nice interior, red interior, black exterior. I think these Z3s are really worth a second look. And for, £5,000 plus a bit of buyer's premium, you're in it for kind of 7. That's a really cheap car. Right, so it's a case of hello again. There was a 1973 MGB GT V8 police car. Now, we've seen this before. We've talked about it before. It made a reappearance before the bench. I think it was in auction and didn't sell. I loved this personally because it had the full rotating blue beacon. And do you remember I was playing with the switches and set the siren off, which made me look a bit of an idiot. I think this is really good. I mean, the problem is you probably wouldn't drive around it that much with the police sirens on because you get arrested. But as a piece of history, this is a working police car as an MGB GT V8. So it's got history, it's got style, and you'd show it at shows, wouldn't you? It's a show car. I think this was really good. I really liked it when I sat inside it. Guided at 16 to 21,000.
And it achieved 19,448. So add the fees on, that's 22 grand, 22.3 near enough. It didn't do it for me, I've got to say.
Oh, right.
It just looked like a tricked out MGB. So I wasn't that excited about it. I know you were excited about it. Would you have to cover up the police things if you were driving along? I suppose you would do, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you would. But as soon as you got to your show, it's lights on, horns on, the lot, isn't it? Fantastic.
There's usually an inside and outside to these sales. I don't know if you've been to these historic ones. They either in nice marquees, or this one was at Ascot Racecourse, and the posh stuff is inside, and the less so is outside. In fact, the really posh stuff is behind a rope inside, isn't it, Max? And locked normally to keep us out.
We're not allowed anywhere near.
No, we're not. One quarter eye just out the door. And we don't quite get the values on these, but it's 1987 Mercedes 123 Estate. It was the 280 TE, but pretty standard Mercedes Estate in blue. In average condition, it was kind of, you went around it and you could point to lots of bits. But guided, wasn't it? 20 to 25,000. Why are they so expensive?
It's bonkers, isn't it? Because I really like these Merc Estates, the W123s. I think they're stylish. They've got really complicated rear suspension, if I remember rightly, that's quite expensive to get right. And they do rust. And I think for something between £5,000 and £7,000, they're a really cool car to smoke around in. But 20 to 25,000, I don't get it. It wasn't that nice a one. It was a bit tatty. Some of these cars just have values and the asking prices that just had no relation to the market. And this, unsurprisingly, didn't sell. I'm not quite sure the market's there yet. People have been talking about these as it's the next big thing, and maybe it will be, but at the moment, not quite right. Too expensive at 20 to 25,000, particularly when you consider what you might have to spend getting it running right.
Now, inside, there was an Aston that caught your eye, wasn't there?
Yeah, I do really like these. So these are the Aston Martin DBSs. So this is the DBS 6 for Bond fans out there. This is the Aston Martin from the George Lazenby on Her Majesty's Secret Service. So it's a nice car. I've seen the values of these all over the place at the moment. There's one for sale in a garage at the moment for £250,000, but this one was £65,000 to £75,000. It had bills for £24,000 for a mechanical refresh. I think they look really good. They're stylish old bruisers, these Aston Martin DBSs. It was on wire wheels, which didn't look quite right, but I think they are a great car.
It looked a bit ungainly, didn't it? It was quite a big, chunky beast.
Oh, I like it. Interestingly, though, this one didn't sell.
And another pick, I like this one. This was outside as well. I've got a Mercedes CLK 55, which is the naturally aspirated V8. But we saw a 2007 CLK 63, which is a supercharged V8. They're convertible, that one. Black and black interior, 82,000 miles. What did it get in the end, actually? 15.5 hammer price. So what's
15,500. So with fees, that's probably about 17,500.
Okay.
Quite good.
Lots and lots of Bentleys outside as well. It looked like Bentley dealer forecourt outside, didn't it? Why is that, do you think?
I just wonder whether Bentleys are becoming a bit too expensive. And all kind of classic cars go through the lull when they're not really appreciated and a bit expensive. But Bentleys, they're expensive to service, they're expensive to fuel, and also clean air zones. Are they going to be around for much longer going through cities? Who knows? But at the moment, they are great value. So this is a 2000 Bentley Arnage Red Label, which we both sat in and loved it. It's lovely blue, cream inside, had every conceivable gadget you could find, and sold for a massive 11,000. Now that is super cheap for what you get. I think having seen that Bentley for £11,000, bearing in mind it's fully serviced, it's got a full service history, it's the fully loaded Red Label, £11,000, I'm getting a bit of regret there, because that would be an amazing car to have.
Well, that other car that we saw, the special Toyota, I think, was more your more your style. Do you want to describe that?
Yeah, so this is a Toyota Century from 2004. Now, this is the kind of Toyota that they made for Japanese ministers, and then it got used a lot for the Japanese mafia. I think it was a really interesting car because it kind of looks just like a bloated Camry, but inside it had the most fantastic net curtains on the windows. It had lovely blue velour interior. It just looks so luxurious. I've never seen one up close, a Toyota Century, and I was quite impressed with it. It's kind of ultra luxury. It's like a BMW 7 Series version. And I was quite taken with it, to be honest.
We were joking, weren't we, that if you pulled it into the hand car wash, you'd have to ask for an inside, outside, and the nets to be done on you, because there was so much curtainage and doilies. The Japanese like doilies on their seats, but there was basically a lot of bed linen and curtains that needed washing when you had this done. But it was a lot of car. I wouldn't say it was one I'd want to put on the drive, because it was very kooky, wasn't it? I mean, it almost looked a bit sort of communist China, actually.
I know what you mean, yeah. But they were kind of making a luxury car. So they took everything they've seen of luxury cars around the world. They put a bit of mahogany and they put a bit of velour. They put some tech in and they put some net curtains in it. And I think it was quite an interesting mishmash, and only sold for £10,582. So with the fees about, 11.5, 12 grand. Again, cheap and very different.
If you were hoping to get a car with net curtains, I'm afraid you've missed out on that one. This was their autumn auction. It'd be interesting to see what comes up at the October and the November ones, won't it?
Yeah, I kind of think, you know how people don't want to pay for their cars over the winter? They don't want to pay for the storage. I think the autumn sale didn't quite have that, I've got to sell it. So I think maybe the November auctions, next up I think is CCA and Stoneleigh Park in October, and then the November auctions will be quite interesting, because I think people will want to be taking lower prices then.
Yeah, that's our tyre kick through the Historics auction recently, and who knows, we might get out and do a few more in the months to come. So moving on, we talk a lot about the perfect classic car choice on this podcast. Something easy to maintain, something cheap, fun, something with plenty of spares and expert help. The answer usually is from Max, an MGB.
But au contraire, I have a new answer to the classic that does everything. It's cheap, between the 10 and 20,000 mark. It's probably one of the iconic car designs of the 20th century. It can fit your family in and is a genuinely useful all-year-round classic.
So the MGB?
No, it's a Series 3 Land Rover, specifically a Series 3, not a 1 or a 2 or a 2A, but the 3. Now why? It's the perfect do-anything classic with a simple petrol engine, bits you can fit yourself, and a design that makes everyone happy as you chug past in a cloud of fumes.
So why are you back into these again? Because I remember we went to a Historics thing like a couple of years ago together, and you were getting all dewy-eyed over the rusty canvas Land Rovers parked in the back there, and then you went off for them, and now you seem to be back on them again. What's happened?
Well, I drove one a while back, and now I've forgotten about how awful it was to drive. No, but seriously, I mean, they're an acquired taste to drive, but you can do drives in them. I mean, the shorter the better. But I think these Series 3s, they're still relatively cheap. This is the 1971 to 1985 Land Rover, so it's the BL one. Now, it's normally been overshadowed by the Series 1s and the Series 2s and the 2As. But I think the Series 3s are a bit easier to live with. They're ever so slightly faster. They've got slightly better brakes. There's plenty of parts around, as long as you don't look for dashboard parts. And they've got a slightly better heater, twin speed wipers, get that. And they've got an alternator instead of a dynamo. So I think they're just a bit easier to live with. And I was thinking about them this week, thinking that is a great car. If you're doing 15 to 20 to 25 miles around and you just want something cool, you don't want to go particularly fast, and you want it to be easy to live with, I think a Series 3 is a good buy.
I just never felt really excited by being in a Land Rover. No, that's not true, actually. I think I've sat in them before and I've thought, this is kooky. And then I've got out again. Do you need to have been brought up in the countryside? Do you need to be called Sebastian or Arabella to get into one of these?
Yes. But apart from that, I mean, you can get a 60 mile an hour cruise if you've got the overdrive. There's obviously seats in the back if you put them in for trips to the pub. You've got a drop top because you've got the canvas top you can take off and lower the windscreen. And I have seen them recently with very posh people in with their black Labrador, and it is a bit of a lifestyle choice. But at the same time, it's still a very cool car, and people love them when they get them. And the driving experience is how can we say without offending Land Rover owners?
Agricultural.
Driving experience is unique, but you do get used to it. And then if you're just pottering around to say, go to the shops, go to the gym, whatever, I think they're really good.
Would it be fair to say there's two markets for this? There's two type of customers. There's the people who use them and abuse them. And then so the Chipping Norton set. Is that fair? Is that fair to say those are the two people that like approach these cars, and then they're two different types of car?
Yeah, I think off-roaders tend to go for the more later stuff with a better suspension. I think the Series 3s are just usable on road. I mean, they're a great off-road as well, but they are very usable on road. And if you look at your screen now, here's a great example of one. And actually, since I put this up, it's become reserved. It's a Series 3, it's a petrol, Weber carbs, deluxe bonnet, 750 tyres for the bigger tyres, deluxe interior, which I think just means you get door cards, and it's had a new bumper and canvas and seats. I think that's really nice. 1981, it's in the mid-grey colour. It's cool, isn't it? You'd put your kids in the back of that.
You would do, yeah, the shake about. I think it'd be fun, actually.
Well, you wouldn't be able to hear them, which would be great.
That would be great, yeah.
Yeah, they're a bit more usable than a Series 1. I mean, a Series 1 is great to look at, but they are really, really, really slow and quite difficult to drive. The Series 2 and 2As are a bit better, but I think when you get to the Series 3, you get the classic looks, but you do get the most modern drive available. And that's why I think they're a great pick. And they're only around, 10 to 20,000 at the moment. So you get various different cars. You get the feel of a vintage car, you get the simplicity of a very basic car, and you get the ability to cart people around and look cool at the same time.
You know what people are starting to do with these, though? I mean, you're talking about engine choices there, but they're starting to put electric motors into them. Have a look at this one, 1977 Series 3 electric, 25 grand. I think, having watched a few videos on electric Land Rovers, this is quite an interesting matchup, isn't it? Because you can make them go fast.
As long as you upgrade the brakes to make them stop fast as well. This is a lovely one. Marine blue. It's got the limestone hood. It's got the 750 tyres, so it's slightly better. And also with the electric conversion. Now, I'm not really a fan of these, as you know, but you're not really missing an engine in a Land Rover. I think you could put the batteries in and have a really cool way of charging around in those. You wouldn't want to go too quick because they'd wobble and fall apart. But I think it's a good candidate if you want to do it for changing them into an electric car.
Have you seen the video of the guy in Wales? I think he's Electric Classic Cars, who claims to have done the fastest Land Rover in the country. Have you seen how fast that goes? It's literally pin you back in your seat stuff.
I have. I saw him on a runway on it, and it was amazingly quick, but you wouldn't want to go around a corner in it. They don't handle any better just because they're electric, do they? It's going to just fall over.
So does this mean you're warming to the electric idea then? Should we talk about it on the next episode a bit more?
Let's talk about it in the next episode. I'm not warming to it. I think I'd probably just accept this one going past. I'm not saying it's a good idea. And also this electric Series 3 it's on an auction from £25,000. Well, these are seriously expensive to convert. So this would probably a conversion cost, 75, 80 grand probably?
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at, minimum 40 grand to plus the donor car to get something done. Actually, it's going to be interesting to see what this does sell for, actually, whether it's more of a waste of money electrifying your car than restoring it, because you never get the restoration cost back. So yeah, this is up at Stoney Park, isn't it, on the 28th of September. So let's keep an eye on that and report back on it. If you had to put your money into something, then what would you go for? That first example?
Yeah, I think Series 3s are pretty safe bets. I mean, we've seen how prices of Series 1s have gone through the roof, and they've kept their price at the same time. And I think these Series 3s, 5 years ago they were 10 grand. Now they're about 20 grand for a decent one. I think in another few years' time they'll probably be about 25 to 30. They do seem to hold their money. They're proper classics. You can drive them in zones. You don't need to pay road tax. Easy to fix, great to look at. I think it's a really good bet.
And what do you need if you get one of these? What do we put in the Land Rover starter pack? You've got some wellies, Black Lab.
You've got a phone for the AA.
You need one of those
RAC.
gilets, don't you? One of those like fabric gilets.
Yeah, and you need a photo shoot. You need a Vogue cover photo shoot where you drive to the beach and take your matching black Labrador along for a walk. I mean, it is kind of like a style and accessory, but I think that's why they're so good, because they are stylish. People have cottoned onto them. It's a really good-looking car and quite usable. You don't need an MGB if you want a decent all-round classic. You can get a Series 3 Land Rover.
Okay, so what do you think? Has Max got it spot on there with a Series 3 Land Rover? Is that the best one to get? Do drop us a line and let us know, especially if you think he's wrong. Instagram feed is at the Tyre Kickers UK.
So no need to tell us you've got better stuff to do than listen to this nonsense, because we're going to say bye first. That's about it for this episode of the Tyre Kickers.
And on the next episode, let's talk electric classics. Would you bin your oily engine for a clean, green, electric retro machine?
Spoiler alert, no. But in the meantime, thanks for listening and see you on the next episode of The Tire Kickers. Oh, and just in case you thought you'd escaped, here's another jingle.
The Tire Kickers with Max and Matt.
Really? Do you like that? I'm not
Max
sure.
and Matt. I think it's great. Maybe I'll just cut out the Matt bit. Just the Tire with Max. Sounds a lot better.
Have it as your ringtone.